Hey everyone, welcome to Wildlife Inspired. I'm your host, Scott Keys. Now in today's video, we're going to talk about pixel shifting specifically for Nikon cameras. It is a really powerful, very interesting tool. You're not going to want to miss this. If you have any confusion about this, I want to clear it up and give you some examples. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it right after this. Now, pixel shifting is a relatively newer feature that a lot of cameras are coming out, including Nikon. I'm going to show you the menu where to access it if it's in your camera. Currently, I'll list the brands that have it. You may need a firmware update, by the way, to get access to this on a couple of these models. But let's just put the Nikon models on the side, and I'm going to go right through this menu and show you how to do it. The actual pixel shifting is just a series of images. And what the camera essentially does, or the sensor does, is it just moves a little bit each time it takes a frame. It does it in series of 4, 8, 16, or 32 currently for Nikon cameras. And I imagine what it's actually doing is shooting like left, up, right, down. So it's kind of shooting this little tiny sequence, and it's only moving each time by a pixel or less. So it's just a tiny movement. In software, it's going to then merge those images to produce a better output. Now, we've seen photo merging in several ways by software. Some of it's done in camera, some of it's done by third-party software. HDR is a way that we can merge different exposures to get better dynamic range. Photo stacking is a way that we take several images and get a different output. In that case, maybe a wider depth of field. In this case, what we're going to do is use this pixel shifting to create a couple of things. One, we're going to try to lower the noise in the image, and it's actually pretty effective. I'll show you examples of that. The second thing we're going to do is create a much larger resolution, depending on how many frames we shoot. I'm going to go through all of this real quick, but just know that it's a very powerful tool, and I would encourage everybody that has this option to play around with it. So if you've got this option in your camera, play around with it. A couple things. In order to do this, because we're merging several files, the files should be static, or the subject should be static, and the camera should be placed on a tripod or somewhere where it's not going to move, so that as we record these images, we're getting the best resolution possible. And then when we merge the files, it'll be cleaner. So we don't want a lot of movement with this one. All right, so the premise is we're going to take multiple frames. We're going to use software. Nikon does not offer in-body processing. It's going to be third-party, but I'm going to show you exactly how to access the menu and how to process the images. So let's get started with the menu. I'll pull it up over here. It's right under the main photo shooting menu. So you could see I'm going to scroll down to the last option here. It's called pixel shift shooting. And actually an easier way is just to go up one. So go to your main menu, just go up one, and there it is, pixel shift shooting. And from there, we've got a couple of options that we're going to do. The first thing we're going to do is select the pixel shifting shooting mode, and we're going to turn it on. If you turn it to a series, it's going to stay on. So it's kind of like forever until you turn it off. If you do it on single photo, it's just going to do one single photo. I'm going to do a series of these. So I'm going to select series, and the number of shots, it's going to vary. I'm going to show you how many to choose and what the benefits are, but you've got options 4, 8, 16, or 32. For this case, I'll just choose 16. And I'm going to show you all of these stacks and kind of the different output that we get. So let's choose 16 for this one. Gives you a description of what it's going to do. Delay is from the time you hit the shutter to the time the process starts. And that's to avoid any camera shake. So if you've manually touched it, you want a little bit of a delay. I don't worry about this interval until the next shot. I just set that to 0. All right, so those are my settings. Now I'm gonna keep it on, and I'm gonna go back to the camera, and the next thing I see is gonna be this. Press the shutter release, and you could see my camera shake when I touched it right there, right? So the next thing I see is this. When I hit that shutter, the process starts. Now before I hit the shutter, I'm just gonna double check. I'm gonna double check my focus, and I'm using some, you see all that camera shake? That's what we wanna avoid. As I'm touching the camera and zooming it, I'm getting those micro adjustments. I'm also, as a tip for macro photography or just making sure I get focused, sometimes I'm going to zoom in digitally so that I can really get a good idea. And I'm using that focus peaking so that I can kind of see those red dots that show up. All right, so I've got everything ready to go. I hit the go button. I hit that shutter, and then it processes the image. Once those are processed, I'm going to take it over to a piece of software, and I'll pull that up now. I'm going to change my view over here a little bit. Okay, the software that's up now is going to be the NX Studio. And this is Nikon's proprietary software. It is free. It's a nice piece of software. You can cull, you can rate, you can do some light editing with it. So you can actually do a lot of your processing here. But if you're going to do this, what they call pixel shift merge, you need this software. Again, not done in camera. Very, very simple to do this. So you'll see at the bottom, there's a little icon for this pixel merge or the pixel shift merge. The last frame down here, I took just a test image. You'll see this last one at the very end does not have that. So that's a single frame, not ready for any merging. Now the process is really, really easy. Look at all these images I took, and I did some at 4, 16, 32, and I chose them all at the same time. And here's how you do it. Just this little icon at the top, and I'll pull this down. I'm not sure if you can see it right there. It is. Okay. So that little icon right there is going to say pixel shift merge. And when I click on that, it is going to manually find all of the files that were merged. So you can see there's a check mark next to 4 and the others are unchecked. Now I could just pick one of the series. So I could pick the 8 frames merged, or I could pick them all. I'm going to pick the 4, and I'm going to process it just to show you how long 4 takes. 30 seconds or a minute maybe for 4 images. Now, if I wanted to do them all at the same time, I could do them all and it would do them in series. And then it's going to save it as an output. You can select the file name if you want, or the folder destination. In this case, I'm putting it right back into the same file. And then there it is. All right. So it says right here, 7925 merged. That's the whole series of 4 images starting at 7925. And it created these files. And that's as easy as it is. So now I have the file. So now, Scott, what does it mean? What does it do? Let me switch over to Photoshop. I'm going to show you exactly how this functions for these Nikon images and the pros, and really not a lot of cons. All right, let me start with this one though. So before I get into that flower I just took, one of the abilities of this is to upsize. If I shoot it at 16 or 32 frames, now I have to get to 16 or 32 to get the upsizing. It is going to literally quadruple the megapixels. It's going to double the width and double the height. This was shot at under 7,000 pixels. It is now over 12,000 pixels wide. That is really, really, really powerful. Now I shot this one at a low ISO. So I shot this at ISO 100. So we're not going to see a noise benefit, but the main benefits of this are going to be reduced noise, and I'll show it to you, increased resolution if you shoot 16 or 32, and potentially better color rendition. I haven't really seen that one. To my eyes, I don't see much of a difference, but it is claimed that there's actually a better color performance, and that's possible. All right. Now, if I wanted to crop this image from the original to 3,000 pixels wide, in my head, I have this imaginary number of 3,000 that I don't crop less than that. And it has to do with quality and print size and some of those things. But that's my arbitrary minimal dimensions for an image have to be 3,000 pixels. Social media, I could get away with more cropping. But anyway, let's look at what that looks like at 3,000 pixels cropped from the original. So this is from the 24 megapixel file. That's what it looks like. Now watch what happens when I upsize it. Remember, I have more resolution, and then I crop that down to 3,000. Watch how much tighter that is. And to my eyes, I did not lose any quality. So really, 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 really cool feature is that you can upsize an image to do a couple things. One, print it really, really, really big. You're talking about a print that's like probably easily 60 inches wide. Like it is really, really, really big. Or I can crop it more. So if I have a need to crop more, I can crop it more in post. All right, let's go back over to a couple things now. We're gonna head over to the actual image that I just took. I just showed it to you. Now here's the image I just took, and it's got a couple of different of those merges taking place with each file. And I'm going to show you the details. Now this is the raw file. You're not going to see a whole lot of difference here, by the way. 4 frames merged. There's a slight change, even though I'm in a controlled environment. These flowers tend to they start to wilt when they're out of the field. Okay, so and that's 8 frames. So not a whole lot of difference. Let's go into 100% though. That's the raw. And I want you to look at noise specifically with this one. We have not upsized this, by the way. These are all the same resolution. 4 and 8 frames, same resolution. The claim is better noise performance. Okay, did you see it? So let's go back to raw. 4 frames, 8 frames. it looks to my eye that I can see a difference. I'm going to put a filter on here that'll show all the noise a little bit better. All right, now let's look at this filter. That's the raw. Here you should see it pretty clearly. There's the 4 frame and there's the 8 frame. And in that process, again, I don't, as detailed as I am on this, I don't see a loss of resolution. So I removed noise, and we all know that sometimes when you remove noise, it softens the image. In this case, I've removed noise without affecting the overall sharpness or resolution. And that's really, really powerful. Haven't upscaled it yet, though. I'll put this back to its original form there, and let's go to this one now. Now, this one is the 16 and 32 merged frames. And this is upsized. This is over 12,000 pixels wide. I did crop it a little bit in just to fit it in the screen better because I had a lot of empty space on the side. So I cropped it down to 10,000 pixels wide. It's still a super huge image. This is probably 75 megapixels still. All right, let's look at this at 100%. And I want you to notice something. When I go to 100%, look at how much more magnification there is. This is 100% of the original. This is 100% of the upsize. So I'm way closer, right? I've just got so much more resolution. So when I zoom in at 100%, it's closer. This is 16 frames. This is 32 frames. Very little difference. I'll do it again. 16, 32. Very little difference to my naked eye. Now let's go and put that little filter on it. Let's go back to 16 with the filter, because I should see a little bit better noise performance. This was at 6400 ISO. I should see a little bit better noise performance at 32, and I did. So a little bit better noise performance. Didn't look like it sacrificed resolution at all or sharpness at all. And I upscaled it to a huge image. So isn't this cool? I can actually make a bigger file and at the same time not lose resolution by upsizing it. Sometimes we lose a little resolution when we upsize. I don't lose resolution and I improve noise performance somehow. Isn't that amazing? So this pixel shift technology, really, really, really cool. I would tell you, explore this. Who's it for? Probably, I could see this for macro photography in controlled environments. So really, really neat application for that possibly. It might allow you to stop down an image, boost your ISO, but then process it so you lose some of that noise in that processing, and also get a really big image out of it if that's what you're looking for. So kind of like upsizing it with better resolution and better noise performance in the process. That's number one. Number two, could be a great application for landscape photographers that want to print big. So you've got that ability to merge these files and create really, really big files. A lot of landscape photographers, by the way, are shooting at lower ISO, but if you're shooting dusk and dawn or you're shooting nighttime skies, possibly, and I don't know how this is going to work with something like astrophotography, but could have an application there. If those frames come out quick enough, we shouldn't see movement in the stars, and maybe there's an application to remove some of the noise in there. So whatever the application is, I think there's something out there. As long as your subjects are static or the scene is static, and you're on a tripod or a fixed location, you should be fine with this one. Go check it out. I think you're going to have a lot of fun with it. Hope the video was helpful. Hope it made a lot of sense. And if you're a Nikon user, go give it a try. I think you're really going to like this one. If you're not subscribed to the channel, got a lot of videos, whether they're Nikon related, wildlife related, there's playlists. So whatever type of photographer you are, or if you're just a Nikon shooter that wants some information, I do have a lot of videos out and coming up on reviews of Nikon lenses and bodies. So check all that out. And thank you for those that have already subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, hit the bell for notifications. And as always, I hope we can continue to find inspiration in wildlife together.